It seems like over the last few weeks, a lot more attention is being shown to the Scarlet and Violet era. Certain booster boxes and singles have been blowing up in price. So now that we're halfway through Scarlet and Violet, let's take a look at every set's booster box and the 5 most valuable singles. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk more about Scarlet and Violet. I know for the last few months everyone's been so focused on Sword and Shield, everyone's talking about Sword and Shield, whether it's alt arts or booster boxes, but it seems like nowadays some people are starting to focus more on Scarlet and Violet. I think that's due to Twilight Masquerade's incredible pull rates. A lot of people are more excited to open sets that are a little bit trickier, and with Paldea Evolved and some of the other sets having illustration rares gaining so much value, I think a lot of people see that there are good cards in these sets and it's time to pick them up, especially these older ones, before they get harder to find or more expensive. Alright, so first up, we've got Scarlet and Violet base set. You know, this booster box hasn't really been performing too great. Right now it's sitting at $95, which is pretty much where it's been all year. It's had moments where it's dipped down pretty low, you know, even getting like to $75, but 95, this is going to be there for a while. I don't really think there's too many singles, as we're going to see shortly here, that give you a reason to make this box valuable. You know, the pull rates are pretty easy. The singles are cheap. I don't see this box climbing too much. There's way better contenders before this one. So in terms of singles, number 5 is the Gold Nest Ball Hyper Rare. Right now going for about $13.40. Not too expensive. It's had highs over the last year of like 17, 18 bucks, but right now 13, nothing too special. It is a staple in a lot of decks, but like I said, it's kind of easier to pull these cards. It's been out for almost a year and a half now. So yeah, sitting at number 5, the Nest Ball. Number 4, we've got the Ralts Illustration Rare. This card has actually climbed up over the last year. It was going for about 10 bucks throughout most of the year. Now it's sitting at about 16. It was at a high of 18 a couple weeks ago. 16 bucks, you know, I think this is one of the more iconic cards from the set, the Ralts Corellia Gardevoir line. And with Gardevoir being such a viable deck in the TCG, the Ralts and the Gardevoir are going to show more value. Everyone runs rare candy, right? That's why your middle evolutions won't hold as much value, even if the artwork is great or it's part of a set. Everyone wants the top rarity of the starter and the max evolution, right? Your basic and your stage 2 for the evolutions. But yeah, number 4, you got Ralts. From there, you've got the Miraidon EX. This card's really cool. You know, it's pretty competitive, which I think is why it has a bit more value to it. It's also kind of the favorite over Koraidon. Personally, I think I like Koraidon more, but I like this card more than the Koraidon Special Illustration Rare. This guy's been going for between like $15 and $25 over the last year. Right now, it's kind of dead in the middle at 19 bucks. Number 2, you got the Gardevoir. Again, this card spiked up pretty big a couple weeks ago, probably for NAIC. It hit $35. Since it's kind of dropped back down to about 27 bucks. But this is pretty high for the year. You know, it's been going for as low as 20, even lower, maybe $19. Had a big spike, 35 bucks, and is now, you know, $27, $28. I'd imagine it'll stay pretty steady if it stays viable through Worlds and going into like the further sets of 2024 into 2025. I think it'll maintain, maybe go up a bit, but again, not that expensive of a card. It's been out for a while. The pull rates are easy, but you know, it is a beautiful card. And number 1, you got the Miriam at just under $30. Again, this is the most expensive card from the set at 30 bucks. Nothing too fancy. You know, I think it might go up a little bit. People have kind of been saying, yo, this card was going for like $150 on release. Why is it down so low? I don't think it'll ever go up that much. It's a nice card, but again, pull rates are they kind of destroyed this set. Cards are easy to get. They're not that expensive. You could crack a booster box and pull this, but I mean, you could buy the top 5 singles for less than a booster box. I think that's probably the smart way to go. I still want to pick this one up for my collection. You know, here in Canada, I'm seeing them sell for like $50, which, I mean, our dollar sucks right now, so it kind of makes sense. But hopefully it goes down a little more or stays low, and I'll pick it up in the future. All right, next up, the second set from the Scarlet and Violet era, we have Paldea Evolved. Paldea Evolved saw some incredible gains over this last few months, maybe this last 3 to 6 months. I think for a while, this has been the best set. You know, people say there are better ones. Twilight Masquerade is good, but I think Paldea Evolved is still better rounded, I guess. It's got the easy pull rates, just like Scarlet and Violet base, but it's a bigger set, so it's a little harder to get those cards. A lot of the singles have gone up a lot in price just because of the difficulty to pull that specific illustration rare being the Magikarp. But yeah, over the last year, this set was going for as low as like $91. I remember seeing it for like 125 Canadian, around Christmas time, Black Friday last year. But since it's gone up, it's going for about 130 USD right now. I feel like it'll be steady, possibly drop before it goes up anymore. I wouldn't count this set out from a reprint happening. It's only been out for like a year, maybe a little more, maybe 13 months. I think there's a very good chance this set gets reprinted, coming into the fall or even going into early next year. If Paldea Evolved booster boxes start going for like $150 so soon, I feel like the Pokemon Company would do something about it and reprint it. Only a matter of time though. I know at 130 I'm not picking this up. If I can find it on sale, I will, but I think there's better options, especially looking at the price. But as far as singles go, you've got the Chi-Yu special illustration rare at $30 right now. A couple weeks ago it spiked up to 40. I'm not really too sure why. I think everyone just heavily focused into Paldea Evolved for a minute, decided that some of these cards were worth more than they were. So it went up to 40. It's quickly dropped back down. I still haven't picked this up. It was one of my favorite cards when this set came out. I just haven't really opened a lot of Scarlet and Violet. I'd still rather open Lost Origin, Silver Tempest, Crown Zenith, Brilliant Stars, rather than like go hard into Scarlet and Violet. But Paldea Evolved is definitely the set I would choose out of everything that's currently out. Even 151, I think I'd rather open Paldea Evolved. So Chi-Yu's number 4. From there you got Tyranitar, the illustration rare. Again, kind of spiked up like crazy. I think just because the Magikarp has had that steady growth pattern, a lot of these cards followed suit. It was going for $45 a couple weeks ago, but has since dipped down to 35. I pulled one of these a long time ago when this card was only $20, 15, $20. I really wanted to get mine graded. I graded a few of my hits from this set, but the quality's pretty bad. The Tyranitar I pulled, I think, would be lucky to see an 8, fresh out of the pack. Ridiculous. From there, another illustration rare in the Raichu. If you haven't seen my illustration rare video, I talked about it a couple weeks ago here on the channel. A lot of these cards saw big gains, and I think a lot of Paldea Evolved is just because there are so many, and the pull rates are the same for illustration rares between different sets, but when you have as many as you do in Paldea Evolved, it gets really hard to pull the hits like Tyranitar, Raichu, and Magikarp. Anyways, though, Raichu's going for $40. It's been pretty steady, $40, $41 ever since it hit that high of 40. It hasn't really dipped anymore. It might, but I think this is a really strong card, and again, I always look at these original 151. It didn't come out in 151, but if it's an OG Kanto Pokemon, it's an illustration rare, it would look nice in like a different 151 master set. Throw in whatever illustration rares and try to fill it up more. It would look great in there with the Pikachu and whatever else you got. Next up, the original SIR Iono. This card was hyped up. It's kind of just slowly dropped over time, though. It hasn't really recovered at all from what it was, or it's just on a steady downward hill, right? Like, it was going for $110 like a year ago. Right now, it's pretty much at its all-time low of 72. Again, like, this card's gonna drop more. I don't see it going up, especially because you have the Iono from the Premium Tournament Collection. You have the one from Paldean Fates. I think a lot of people like the Paldean Fates one more. There's also the other full art from this set, so there are a lot of variants of Iono, tons of different like holos and whatevers, right? Reverse holos. I'm sure there's like promos from playing at events. So from a playable standpoint, like there's a lot of options for Iono. That makes it go down a bit more. If you want to collect, there's so many options as well. Another card I really like and I'd like to pick it up, but $75, I still don't think it's worth it. I think this one's going to continue to drop. From there, the big hit, the most expensive illustration rare from Scarlet and Violet. I think this was the most expensive card from Scarlet and Violet until Greninja, but you're looking at the Magikarp. It's actually backed off about $20 over the last couple weeks, but it was going for 150 USD like a month ago. It's crazy. I saw this at a card show here in Toronto. I think it was like $250 or $300 for a raw copy. Ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. It's still going for $130. Again, though, this is an amazing card. It's kind of like the icon of like that first block of Scarlet and Violet for whatever reason. Magikarp's sweet. I don't think anyone predicted this card would be at its value, though. It's just steadily grown from $40 like a year ago to $150, backed off a little bit. I think it's going to steadily stay above $100. I doubt it'll drop unless there's some sort of like massive reprint or something like that, but this card's awesome. I think it deserves to be number 1 in this set, and it's kind of above most cards just in general over the last couple of years. Incredible gains, and definitely one to keep an eye on. Next up, you've got Obsidian Flames. These booster boxes haven't really done much. Going for about $100. I think the set isn't really that great. There's some really good like illustration rares, but the set was relatively small, so getting the hits you want were a lot easier than a set like Paldea Evolved. Booster box, realistically, it's been going between $95 and $105 for a while now, pretty much its entire life cycle. Sitting at $105 right now, I think that's going to be the case for a while. I think eventually it'll go up because of the Charizards, and like I said, there's some good illustration rares, but it just doesn't have like a solid chase card like Paldea Evolved did. Your singles, you're looking at an ultra rare Pidgeot EX. Yes, just a basic Pidgeot EX as your 5th most expensive card, and that's just due to the playability factor. 5th most expensive card, $8.75. Nothing crazy. From there, the next up, you have Pidgeot Special Illustration Rare. It's only $12.20. Super cheap card, a kind of tough card to pull, but it looks really nice. It goes great, and, there's that 3-stage evolution following the same art style. This card hasn't really seen much growth. Actually, it's just kind of dropped. It was double the price a year ago, $25. Sitting at about 12 right now. I don't really see this one going up. Again, there's a lot of different variants of Pidgeot, so players who need it can get it pretty easily. And the artwork on this isn't that crazy. I don't really see this going up much long term. Maybe graded copies just because Obsidian Flames is really tricky to get the 10s, but $12, nothing too special. From there, Ninetales illustration rare. This one was going for a lot more on release, $21. Kind of dropped, it was going for like $5, $6 most of the year. Has slowly picked back up to 12. I could see it going up a little more. Again, this is a really nice card. The artwork's way better than the Pidgeot SIR. This should have been an SIR, but it's not an EX, right? Wouldn't make sense, but beautiful card. $12. I think it's still a great pickup if you want to grab it. I don't know if it'll go up much more or down much more, but pretty nice card. From there, you got the hyper rare Charizard. This card has just been garbage since release. It dropped, I'm pretty sure these cards were selling for, 120, 150 Canadian easily. Dropped drastically over the first month or two of release to $30 and has since just consistently dropped. Very slow pace, down to $17.50. I think it's going to drop even more. I was at a trade show recently, a card show. Almost every table had this card at $30. But for me, I looked at a bunch of them. I wanted to pick one up. I'm talking 30 Canadian, by the way. I wanted to pick one up, but the quality on them is so bad. Obsidian Flames is just terrible. And you'll see even with the next card here, the Charizard SIR, a little bit more expensive, but going for $42. Same pattern. It was going for $225, even more on release. Drastically dropped. It was going for $50 within the first 3 months. It's just continued going. It's going for $42 right now. I think this card's awesome. I pulled one, graded it. I thought mine would get a 10. I was pretty confident. Came back a 9, so got rid of it. I would love to pick one up again, but it seems like consensus is the quality is so bad on this set that almost whatever you get is going to come back, an 8 or a 9. It's so rare to get the 10, and that's where you see the price difference so drastically between a 9 and a 10. But yeah, this set, honestly, it's probably even worse than Scarlet Violet base in terms of value. It's really just carried by these 2 Charizard cards. The Ninetales, even $12. It's nothing special, but you could probably buy a master set for almost the price of a booster box here. It's ridiculously cheap. There are nice cards, like the Scizor, the Cleffa, the Gloom, a few different illustration rares, but for the most part, nothing too special in this set. Next up, we have Paradox Rift. I'm going to skip over the special sets. This is just kind of main series sets right now. We know 151 is going to do good. It's kind of a given. Paradox Rift, however, I think is a really strong set. This is one I've been picking up because I found some deals on it. I never picked it up on release, but there's a lot of nice cards in this set. I'm pretty confident that it's going to do decent long term, There's going to be way better. I think the final block of Scarlet and Violet is going to be just wow factor, right? It's going to knock our socks off, right? Anyways, Paradox Rift. Booster boxes have been steadily climbing over the last few months. On release, they were going for quite a lot, $140, whatever. Right now, they're going for 106. You can find them sub 100 on deal for sure. I think it's a good set to pick up. Better than Obsidian Flames, I would say. Better than Scarlet Violet base. This was the set they started messing with pull rates, trying to make it more difficult. And I think it worked. It was definitely a step in the right direction. In terms of singles, you've got a lot of special illustrations here. The Iron Hands, I think just because this card is very competitive, it pairs well with Miraidon or any electric type decks going on out there. It's been pretty steady. It wasn't ever going for a lot of money. The height is $38. It's had its valleys. It was going for as low as 21. Right now, 26. Not too bad. I think if this card sees more play, it might continue going up. But again, there's like a full art option, there's a regular option. You don't need this one in your deck, but like artwork wise, not my favorite. I don't really like this kind of flat, like two-dimensional cartoony style, but it's a pretty cool card and a lot of people do like it. From there, you got Iron Valiant. I'm way more of a fan of this card. Super nice. I like when there's multiple Pokemon on a card. It's going for $34 right now, which is pretty low. It was going for like 70 on release or shortly after release, and it dipped off pretty consistently, pretty quickly. Went down to 27 bucks. Right now, $34. Not too bad. I think it's a strong card, and I think if Paradox Rift booster boxes continue to go up, some of the singles will follow. I feel like this is a really nice one that could continue to go up. Maybe keep an eye on it if you're looking to grab it. Next up, Altaria Special Illustration Rare. This one's really nice. It reminds me a lot of the Aerodactyl from Lost Origin. I feel like this one will perform really good long term. It's one I want to pick up. I was hoping it would dip lower, and honestly, I probably could have picked it up a while ago for a good price. Kind of forgot about it, and I feel like this is one of those cards people will forget about and then go back to and be like, wow, awesome artwork, I need it, right? It's hit a high of 45 bucks, has since dipped back down to like 38, so not too cheap, not too expensive. I feel like it might go down more. Like, I don't really see a lot of people talking about this card. I don't think it's a lot of people's favorite. It's in third place. It's probably third on my list of cards from this set as well, to be honest. I think the price is justified. I don't know if it's going to move around much more, but definitely pay attention if you want to pick it up. Next up is Groudon. This one saw incredible gains. A lot of people really like this card, and I think it's a lot of people's favorite from this set. I love Groudon. This is a card I definitely want in my collection one day, just not right now. It was going for a high of $65 a couple weeks ago, has since leveled out at $52, $53. I feel like it'll stay pretty consistent at about 50 bucks, but you know, the time to pick these cards up might be towards the end of this year. You know, they're gonna do a bunch of sets coming up in the next, 3 to 6 months. They're gonna have Black Friday deals. You're gonna be able to find stuff for cheap because the market will be flooded with product. You're gonna get duplicates out there. People will be selling their stuff for cheap so they can buy new stuff, like whatever holiday set comes out or the glory of Team Rocket or whatever they're calling it. So this card might go down more. I'm going to keep an eye on this. I would love for it to drop to like 40 bucks, and I think that's when I would try to pick it up. I don't know if it'll ever return to, $20 to $25. If it does, I think that's a steal. Groudon's amazing and this artwork is incredible. Keep an eye on it. I know I'm going to. Next up, Roaring Moon. This is my favorite card in this set. Again, like I said with Iron Valiant, I love multiple Pokemon on a card. I think this card captures that whole ancient feel really well. Roaring Moon is a super cool Pokemon. I love Salamence, and I think this version is better than Salamence, to be honest. It's gone from like a height of $115 down to like almost its low right now of 60 bucks. It's gone as cheap as like $52, $53, but $60 seems like a pretty consistent price over the last 3 months. Again, will it drop more? I feel like it might, but it really depends on if the booster boxes keep going up in value. I think a lot of people like this set, like a surprising amount of people do. I haven't opened much of it, but I love most of the cards in the set. I don't know if it's worth opening boxes these days. Like, I'm more into just picking up the cards instead of cracking a lot of packs, but we'll see. If some of these booster boxes get cheaper, I might have to rip some open and chase this guy. Now on to Temporal Forces. I think this is a really strong set. I feel like it's a little tricky with some of these to determine how they're going to perform long term, being so focused on new Pokemon and DLC related Pokemon, I guess. Booster boxes right now going for 106. I think some of these newer boxes are going for so much more because pull rates are difficult. I don't think it's necessarily because they're new. Usually when they're so new, they get a little bit cheaper. That's not the case with Temporal Forces. It's tough to get those cards, and there's a lot of pretty expensive cards in this set. Again, it's very heavily focused on the Paradox Pokemon, the ancient and future legendary Pokemon. So to start off at number 5, you got Iron Leaves, Special Illustration Rare. I think this is like my favorite of the whole set, to be honest, and it's not really that expensive. Right now going for about $39, but these were pretty expensive. At one point, this was like a $90 card, $80 card. Quickly dropped. Right now, 40 bucks. Solid price. I think it's relatively playable. Again, I'm not super focused on the TCG, but Iron Leaves, pretty sweet card. 40 bucks, I could see it dropping some more, especially at like I said, as more sets come out and more popular Pokemon get released, I could see a couple of these dropping a bit. Next up, Morty's Conviction. Strictly because of the Gengar, this has value. It spiked up like crazy for whatever reason. It was going for like 90 bucks at one point. Has trickled all the way back down to about $42. I don't think this card is anything too special. You know, it's cool. I get it. It's got Gengar on it. It's cool that it's Morty on there, but still nothing too special. I don't think this card should be 42 bucks, and I feel like it'll continue to drop slowly over the next few months. If we were to just get a Gengar special illustration rare, I think this card would drop drastically. You know, that's what's carrying this card, this little Gengar there. I guess it's not little, but Gengar in the forefront. You know, I don't see this card really sustaining long term. Next up, Walking Wake. I really like this Pokemon. I like Suicune a lot. Walking Wake is really cool. Probably my favorite of the three, like, Paradox dogs, I guess. But 46 bucks, you know, I feel like the artwork could be a lot better on this guy, and I think that's hindering its value a bit. It's pretty cool. I like what's going on, but I feel like there could be something better happening. It's just kind of lacking, in my opinion. I don't know. Artwork's nice, but it just doesn't hit the spot for me. This card has kind of been pretty consistent. You know, it's been as low as like $43. It's been as high as like $55. Right now, 46. I think it'll stay relatively consistent there. Probably drop down closer to 40 in the next little while, but again, you know, pretty difficult pull, so price is somewhat justified there. Next up, the Iron Crown. This one had a lot of controversy on release because it was just flying up in value out of nowhere. Everyone like panicked, bought it, sold it like crazy, and it just kind of crashed. Did it again, crashed again. So right now, $59. This card was going for over $100 on release. Ridiculous. You know, it's a super nice card. I think a lot of people like it more than Iron Leaves. I understand why. I think it's beautiful. I think it's kind of going to be an iconic card, or a card that everyone's going to want in their collection. I think it'll stand out really well amongst other special illustration rares. Again, pretty tricky pull rate, $59, 60 bucks. I think it's a good price. I honestly don't see this card dropping like too much. Like I doubt it would be going for below 50, at least not anytime soon. So $60, you know, that might be a good time to pick it up. Like not too long ago, it was going for, you know, $82. You know, it's dropped like over $20. Might be a good time to pick it up if you really want it for your collection. Now the star of this set, Raging Bolt. I don't love Raging Bolt. I think the artwork is cool. I like the Jurassic Park vibe and all that stuff going on. But this card, you know, pretty expensive right now, going for over $80 and has hit highs of over 100. Very nice card. I think a lot of people like Raichu. I think Raichu is probably my favorite of the three originals, but I like the Walking Wake Paradox version more than the Raging Bolt. Pretty nice card though, you know, a card I would definitely like be stoked if I pulled this, but not a card I'm going to go out of my way to pick up personally. Now, last but not least, we have the newest set, Twilight Masquerade. This set, surprising to me, is really shaking up the hobby recently. It's going for $108 right now, which is like pretty incredible considering how new this set is. It's been out for about 6 weeks now, and surprisingly, it hasn't really dropped too much in price. Still going for $108 is pretty impressive to me. Like a lot of other Scarlet and Violet sets, those first couple dropped pretty drastically in that first couple months of release. But this guy's been pretty steady, and that's because pull rates are just ridiculous in this one. I feel like with the last two sets, Paradox Rift, Temporal Forces, they were playing around with it, trying to make it trickier, trying to find the sweet spot. And with Twilight Masquerade, I think pull rates are a little too hard, but people like it, and I understand that. If you want to chase cards, if you're some of those people that are ripping a case of booster boxes, right, you're not going to want to pull every card immediately. You might want to, but that chase is something a lot of people are looking for, and this set has that. One of the big cards, in my opinion, and I mean it's top 5 on this list, is the Eevee. The Eevee illustration rare. It's going for, you know, $47 right now. It's at its high. I don't think it's going to drop anytime soon. I could see this card continuing going up, especially if they do all these Eevee special illustration rares coming up in the new holiday set that Japan's getting in December. When that comes to English, I mean, even when that's in Japan, I think this card is going to go up a lot more because it's going to help represent that grand picture of all the Eevees. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of connection to it. $47, this card's going up above 50 for sure. Long term, it might drop, it might settle a little bit, but I think this is going to be one of the biggest illustration rares from the Scarlet and Violet era, at least what we have so far, and probably what's coming out in the next set or two, maybe up until 2025. We'll have to see. Next up, Blood Moon Ursaluna. I think this card's only here because of the value. I don't know if a lot of people like this Pokemon. Personally, I don't like this card, not really at all, to be honest. There are a lot of other special illustration rares for cheaper prices that I would grab before this. But yeah, this card was going for $100 on release. But yeah, this card was going for like $80 on release. It has just dropped pretty drastically and has since leveled out about $50, $51. Again, long term, I don't know if this is going to sustain. I feel like Eevee's very close to popping over this guy. I don't see the price sustaining at $50. I think, give it another 3 to 6 months. This will be a $40 card. Maybe even less. We'll have to see. After that, you've got Heron. I really like this card. It matches with the Growlithe. I'm surprised the Growlithe isn't higher up on the list, but I mean, Eevee, I guess I would put Growlithe above Blood Moon Ursaluna, to be honest. But Perrin, this card is awesome. I like it a lot. $75. I feel like this one, it'll drop a bit. These cards are still pretty new, and because pull rates are hard, it's not like the price is going to drastically drop. Like Blood Moon Ursaluna, that's different because people aren't really looking for that card. I think there's a lot of Perrin fans, and you'll see with the next two cards, there's going to be a lot of fans as well. But Perrin, it's hit $85. It's sitting at $75. I could see this being like relatively consistent, in that like $65 to $80 mark. I don't really see it dropping too much anytime soon. Next up is Carmine, which is going for $103. There's not a lot of cards from Scarlet and Violet going for over $100, so I'm pretty surprised this one is up there. But I get it, there's a lot of fans of this type of card, right? Everyone loves them. It was going for as much as $125. Right now, $104. I feel like it's going to dip a little bit. Again, I don't know if this is playable to any extent. I think it's just like a really nice artwork, and a lot of people really like it for that aspect, which I mean, I agree. This is an amazing piece of art. Very cool card, and I think a lot of people would really like it in their collection. But the big card, the number one card from the whole Scarlet and Violet era, and I'm just amazed that every day this card is going up more and more in value, going for $237 right now. The Greninja EX Special Illustration Rare. And yeah, this card is amazing. The artwork is super good, but $240 almost? Ridiculous. For a card that's been out for 6 weeks, I feel like this is one of the only reasons you'd be opening Twilight Masquerade. This Carmine, Perrin, Eevee, that's basically it, right? All the Ogre-Pawns people don't seem to care about, and the fact you're not really hitting an SIR in every box, and there's a lot of SIRs, it makes it really tough to pull this card. A couple weeks ago I did a video on the pull rates and how they affect the value. We got pretty in depth with Twilight Masquerade and how the pull rates are directly impacting the value compared to sets like Paldea Evolved, which we talked about earlier. Your special illustration rare, like pulling any special illustration rare, is like 1 in 86 packs now. So if you wanted to pull the specific, 1 in 940. That's ridiculous. 940 packs to potentially pull this card is crazy, This card is not worth $237. I don't think it, ever should be, even if this card was out for 5 years and it was tough to get, like maybe then, but dude, like how is this more expensive than some alternate arts? Like the pull rates are the same. Yeah, it's harder to pull this than it is technically for the Giratina from Lost Origin, but is this card nicer than Giratina? I don't know, man. I really don't know. I feel like a lot of people are on the fence with this. I feel like consensus is it's not worth $240, but for whatever reason, it keeps going up in price, and for whatever reason, it keeps selling every day. Like one sold for $260 on TCG Player today. Crazy, $280 today. Like I'm looking, there's been like a dozen sales today. $280. Like again, marketmanipulationplayer.com, as some people would say, if you know. I don't think this card is worth the value. I'd be stoked to have this in my collection, but man, if I pulled this card and it was going for this price, I'm getting rid of it. I'm not thinking twice. I'm selling this card. I'll pick it back up when it drops, $100. Give it 6 months. I feel like this one, there's no way it's going to sustain. I think it's going to crash hard eventually, but I might eat my words on this. Let me know in the comments below how wrong I am on Greninja, why this is the best card in Scarlet and Violet. But, I'm fairly confident that the best is yet to come, and there's going to be cards that just blow us away, especially in Team Rocket and Terrestrial Festival or whatever it's going to be be here in English. You know, once Umbreon hits the market, Greninja, watch out. You know, you're getting knocked down a peg or two. All right, guys, so that's it for today's video. Just to recap on the Scarlet and Violet era, I'm happy that people are finally starting to pay attention, and I'm happy that some of the cards are going, you know, a step further. I feel like a lot of those Terra type EX special illustrations were just lacking in anything. You know, the Garchomp from Paradox Rift, terrible card. Greninja is just like light years ahead of it, you know, and they're consistently choosing good Pokemon for the illustration rares. I'm really happy with the direction it's going. I'm really happy the pull rates are tougher. I feel like they're a little bit too tough for my liking, but you know, sets like Paldea Evolved, for me it was like I like the sets, but I didn't really care to open it because there wasn't much value. You know, you could just pick up the cards you wanted. It's different now as time has gone on. I think there's a lot in store for Scarlet and Violet. I think the next year and a half is going to look amazing until we get into the next generation, you know, Gen 10. Crazy that we're there already. But guys, Scarlet and Violet, do you like it? Do you think Sword and Shield was better? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to start a conversation. And let me know what your favorite card was from this video. What's your favorite set so far from Scarlet and Violet era? For me, I still think Paldea Evolved is my favorite, but I think my favorite is yet to come. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every one of you who has clicked the thumbnail and watched all the way through this video. I know probably a bit longer than normal, but there's a lot to talk about. All right, guys, I hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.